Yeah. What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, Platinum Producers, Arkatech Beatz. I am Jugrnaut.
I am Mike Trauma D.
And today, we got a special guest in the building.
Yes, sir.
In the building.
You're...
You know, listen, this guy right here, man, like this guy is like he does everything, man. He's a producer, songwriter, singer, and now performer, right? And now like super actor, my man, my brother Sean Anthony Baker in the house.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Clap it up, right?
Yeah.
I might have some clapping sounds. Let me see if I got clapping sounds in this joint.
There you go.
There you go.
I need that. Now, listen. Now it's official.
All right.
Yeah. So
what's going on, fam? What's going on, brothers?
Listen, I wanted to get you on this podcast for a little bit. Me and Mike have been giving a lot of game to a lot of folks, and every week trying to, as we do it, what we do.
Yes.
I've been wanting to get you on. But first, let me just let the people know, if it's your first time with us, right? We're Arkatech Beatz, we're Platinum Producers. We've been in this business for over 20 years, and the podcast is basically primarily for us just giving information and resources back to independent artists, musicians, people just trying to get into the business, whether it be, entertainment overall, right? So we do have it as a music business podcast, and I know that. But at the same time, there'll be different guests and stuff that come on from different backgrounds and, mostly rooted in music, but in entertainment as a whole. So with that being said, let me just go over my man's resume for those who are not aware of what's going on right now. He is currently on the Apple TV series as a recurring guest star, playing Coach Naeem Raheem in Swagger. Right, so if you haven't checked out Swagger on Apple TV, you got to make sure you go check that out. That's what's jumping right now. But my man has been in everything, man. He's been on FBI. He was in Shaft fighting Samuel L. Jackson. All American. He's been on BET Tales. Question of Faith and All Eyes on Me, and the list just Queen of the South. The list just keeps going on and on. So for those who don't understand and don't know who's coming up, my brother's coming up, and he's making sure everything is popping. So what I wanted to do today, I just wanted to introduce the people to you who are not really familiar. Tell them how you got started, and and how your transition went, because we know your roots are in music. But
Yes.
I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you tell it.
Well, I was born on a river in a little tent. First of all, I thank you all for having me. My brothers, you all have been just the biggest supporters that I've had for umpteen years in this business. Aside from that, my roots are in the music first, initially, and our history is our history is deep. It's long, and a lot of what I am today is because of y'all. So just let me first start off by saying that for those that don't understand the history of Arkatech Beatz. And myself, Sean Baker, and what used to be tyranny.
Yeah, I see the art on the wall back there.
Wait, hold on. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Just a little something. I had to do a little makeshift, temporary studio thing,
That's
the hard way, like y'all just get. But the history is there. And I've accomplished so much with y'all. So again, just starting off by saying, again, just continue. Thank you. Like I give my people the flowers now. I ain't gonna wait till sad moments and all this nonsense. No, listen, I give my people the flowers now. So a lot of what I am and what I'm doing is because of the training and the support that I've had. And Yeah, so so we're gonna jump past the music for a little bit, but as far as the acting is concerned, I've been acting um, well over 10 years, probably more than that if I'm including any theater work that I've done back in New York, any um, uh, the talent shows that I've done back in New York. But really, really for me, what started as an inspiration through my mother and my father of their love for my father with love for film and my mother with a love for theater. And I grew up just not really understanding just how much that would impact my life later on down the road, but I just enjoyed the arts. I loved music and I loved uh, dance, and then I loved being able to. I was exposed to, not well, aside from film and theater, just watching these beings get on stage and create a world and make you believe in characters that someone wrote or created, and take you through a journey while you sat there for a moment in time, and followed storylines in their journey. So I found that to be very intriguing at a young age. My mother exposed me to that, and my father was just a fan of film, old school film, and I was introduced to Sidney Poitier at an early age, and not really understanding the depth of
Classic.
it. Yeah,
That's a
you know what I'm
classic.
saying? Like,
Classic.
I give my props to the Denzels and the Samuel L. Jackson of the world, but for me, my era came up with watching Sydney, and it was just like he was magic. The way this man commanded his presence on the screen. So a lot of what I started doing with acting came from my inspiration through my parents, and it just kind of went from there.
That's dope. That's dope. What
Yeah.
was I guess give us like some of the trials and tribulations on this on the journey to getting there,
Mm.
because like in the music business, I mean it's the entertainment business overall, so
Yeah.
there's always trials and tribulations, and you know like give us like maybe one or two trials and tribulations to give these people an example of how difficult and how challenging it is, and maybe some words of encouragement too.
Um. Ooh. That's loaded. That's loaded. That's loaded. I'm gonna say you know what, Mike. The first thing I'll say is well, like you said, trials and tribulations are going to come. Well, let's just say not just in the business, just in life, right?
Mhm.
Period. Just as we go through day to day, we're trying to get past obstacles and trying to move forward and survive and find our way through. What Reggie Biden, the director and creator writer for Sirach would say is mazes, that we're trying to get through mazes in life. Um, when it comes to, I have a mantra. One of my mantras is do it with passion or
Mhm.
don't do it at all. And when you find out what you believe, or whatever age, whatever stage of life you're in, when you discover what your passion is and what your purpose is, then you do it with passion. You give it your all, because those trials and tribulations will come. And when it comes to the acting world, again, no different from really the music world, whether you're a producer, whether you're the artist, whether you're a rapper, singer, you're going to get rejection. That's just one of the first things, is understand the realm of that.
Yeah.
This is for acting specifically, um, it's a business of no. You get a lot of no's before you
Wow.
hear that yes. You get a lot of there are moments where you will doubt yourself. There are
Mhm.
moments that people will make you doubt yourself. There are moments that situations will make you doubt yourself, and specifically in terms of just because you're chasing your dream, you're chasing your passion. But if you don't have the desire and the will to want to do this and do it for the right reason, you find out what your why is. We always talk in acting. We always talk about what is your why, what is the character's why, what do they want out of the scene or a moment or a situation. But in life, what is your why? So when you find out about that passion, specifically when speaking to acting, the why helps you kind of get through and navigate through some of those the deterring things that will come across, and make you feel as if you are doubting, should you be here, should you be doing this, should you be pursuing this. um Again, and I know I'm kind of giving some life things here, but it
No, that's
applies.
dope. That's
Because
real.
because and I just feel like it applies, you know what I'm saying, fellas, because um with acting, a lot of that what we do in the acting world is we're being we are what Al Pacino said, we are emotional athletes. And so by being an emotional athlete, we have to have lived life and experienced life and understand what all of what life has to offer. That's the crooked with the straight. And so that's how we're able to kind of borrow from that and
Okay.
apply it to our lives, so we can say, okay, well, now when I have to live through a character or tell a story, how realistic am I making this? Right.
Right.
So again, just going back to just the trials and tribulations. I mean, there's so many of them, probably too long to list and name. But I will
Right.
say
Right.
this, that as an actor, when pursuing this and when kind of when wanting to do this particular career,
Mm-hmm.
just know that it is not about the glamour. It is not about the money. I mean, those things kind of come, in
Right.
stages and in waves, but you have to want to do this,
Got you.
this craft, because yes, you will you are faced with doing the auditions, and you are faced with one project leading to the next. That
It's
one,
work.
one minute
Yeah.
one minute you got the project is running, whether it be a TV series, whether it be a movie. Next minute, when that's done, it's on to the next. You may have a little lull in between that, and how do you deal with that lull? How do you deal with doing your auditions, and out of, let's say, 50 auditions, you don't get that yes until maybe the 50th one, or the 51st audition, and
Yeah.
how like where do you? So your mental has to be strong for that. Again, that goes back to knowing what you're doing is for and why you're doing it. That helps
Got you.
tremendously in getting through the trials and tribulations, and just and oh, to answer the second part of, or the end part of your question, you said, well, just giving some advice as to how to deal with that and navigate. It goes back to what I said in the beginning, kind of giving the flowers to you guys, and just kind of highlighting my relationship with y'all and people like that in my life. You have to have a strong tribe and a strong village, strong circle, because mentally, on an individual basis, you're gonna come across many situations that will again have you doubt yourself.
Right.
And in those moments, you want to be able to have the people around you that remind you of who you are, remind you of what you've been through, what you've accomplished, and what more you have to do. Because we need that. We are not, we can't function completely by ourselves.
Right.
Ultimately, it's on us to say, I want to get up and go, but we need each other, and
Right.
have the right people around you.
That's real.
And that's super real, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes we have to be reminded of who the fuck we are,
Man.
and it's like you can forget, like you say, like you kind of get caught up in the whirlwind of things, and like you said, it's a business to know.
Yeah.
That's really, really, really strong, right? And that's not just on an actor side, that's on an entertainment side, especially if
Yeah.
you're in the business of trying to get people to listen or see or look at your art. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like you're trying to get this person to see your art, right? So if you're
Hmm.
if an actor, you're trying to see that, hey, I want you to see that this is the art that I can create for you. If you're a
Right.
producer, I want you to hear my art, like like this is gonna take take it to a different level, and
Yo, can I add? And listen, that's the thing that I love, because the dynamic of what I've been through and experience of being a producer with y'all. I know I've been there. I've been there where we sat in the studio and played. When the artist is like, "All right, next, what else you got?" And
Yeah.
meanwhile, and then he'll be like, "Yo, before we left the crib, and we put like, yo, this was fire. Like we knew this
Yeah.
was a joint."
It
Like next,
happens. Yep.
you know?
listen, it
They don't. They
happens.
don't. They don't tell you. They don't tell you that part.
No,
No,
Like.
they don't tell you about the rejection, and when you have
no.
to be walking out of these spots like this, like listen, there's
Yo.
been times where
That
we
joint
play
hurts
joints. It
sometimes.
hurts sometimes. You play 10, 20 joints, and people just be like, "Not today, brother."
Not today.
And
Yeah.
and this is the artist that you probably been searching and been trying to get up with for weeks or months
Hmm.
or possibly even years,
Yeah.
and you just ain't got it that time, man. And like you said, the business of no, man, you get that rejection, and if you don't have your tribe, if you don't have your folks to tell you, nah, man, like they just wasn't feeling it today, or you won't keep going, man. And I think
Right.
that's one of the lessons that you can tell the people, like, you keep going. And I think
And,
you used to post, and you've posted that on your socials. Keep
yes.
going, because
Keep
it's
going.
like you said, it could be you can be 50, you could do 50, and your blessing could be at 51. But if you stop
51.
at 50,
Yeah.
you're never gonna get it.
That's true.
That's the other mantra, fellas, for me is that, is that's the other mantra, because in addition to, do it with passion or don't do it at all, that's the other thing, keep going. It's the only way I lose, is if I quit. But if I don't quit, you gotta see me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, if I
Right.
keep going, you gotta see me.
Right. If you quit,
Something,
that's it.
that's it. And
It's zero. If you quit, that's 0% chance of being successful.
Yep,
So
exactly, exactly.
absolutely. That's the right mind frame. I had a cat tell me one time back from the Bronx. Yo, y'all some real persistent mofos, man. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys don't never stop. It's like you guys always doing something, and it's like, but this is the nature of the game, and it's like this. Even when we talk about your transition from music to
mhm.
acting and film, there's a transition in that, and
Yes.
I guess the question that I would ask you is like, when did you feel was the right time to transition, and what was that epiphany that said, hey, you know what, I wanna now, because let's be clear, like you had a record deal and all these different type of things, you know what I mean, and
Yeah,
so let's keep it 100, like, so you had all of that
yeah.
stuff, and then you say, you know what, I want to go in this direction. What was the epiphany? What was that spark that said, you know what, it's time for me to make this move, and you know, kind of put that first love of music, a little bit on the side, and say, all right, I'm gonna jump on this other thing.
Well, you know what, yo, to be honest, and you guys know my history, personally, with a lot of different things that we've gone through. So to keep it 100, well, number one, acting was always kind of, it was still in my world. Like, I probably did a commercial here and there, like a little. I think I did a book, a short film for a book at one point. So it was always there, but music was just stronger at that moment in time. So again, full speed ahead with that. Mixtape, shows, everything. Music will always be my love. But acting was always there as well. But the music was just at that time just more prominent. The change, however, came. It was after I lost my mother. It was a time when dealing with her sickness. I remember, and a story that will come across, come down the line when, I guess, writing the book or telling the story of my life, which you'll already know. But I remember, the days and nights of going to the studio or doing shows, and after that, dipping to the hospital, dipping to the nursing home, checking on my Dukes, and making sure she was good, making sure she was straight. Um, and with my father and my sister at the time, because we were her caretakers. And so, for me, the push that I had, the inspiration that I had in going through all of that was, well, as long as my mom is fighting, I'm fighting.
hmm
So that was my biggest push and also anchor. And so, unfortunately, when she transitioned, it changed. It changed some things, and I was still living in New York at the time, and I eventually made the transition to New York. I'm sorry, to Atlanta after she transitioned, and somewhere along the line, fellas, I'm gonna be honest, I lost it. I just lost a bit of that push to want to be that type of performer and artist. Like, there was just
hmm
something that kind of just went away. I'm just keeping it real.
hmm
Um, I've always had the music. I love music. Like, music again is, if I had the loves, if I could stay with my loves, it's like, it's just the arts really. But music never goes away from me. But when I lost her, it was something just kind of something kind of just went away. And
hmm
so I wasn't as inspired. And then, unfortunately, some years later, and I tried it again. I still tried it again. I dipped back into it for a moment,
hmm
because you guys know I took a little bit of a hiatus. But even while in Atlanta, went back at it again. Tried to work on on a mixtape and try to, shift some things. And but then my father passed, and it was just like, something wasn't there. I lost a part of me, a
Right.
part of me that was attached to what pushed me in that realm in that part of the the world of the arts for me. So I don't know if I was watching something. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I was watching something. I don't know what triggered it, but I remember at one point talking to there was a barber that I had that I found that was from New York. I think it was from Harlem, as a matter of fact, while I was in Atlanta. And he said, "Yo," and he was talking to me, and I was telling my history. You know what, I did this, blah blah blah. And he said, "Yo, I know somebody doing an audition for a stage play." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "That's cool." I said, "Yeah, because you know," and I mentioned I did, music and a little bit of acting here and there, some plays, but nothing major at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Yo, if you want to audition for that, they have an audition that whatever such place." And I said, "All right." And I remember going. I remember going just because that was something that mind you, wasn't TV film. This was a stage play. Think of Tyler Perry plays, right? Not even theater
Right.
like in Broadway. This is you're off Broadway. This is the circuit of down south, and Mama, I caught the pastor, frying chicken and sleeping with the so and so, like
Right.
that
Right.
kind of
Right.
But and not all of them were like that. Some were, but then you had those. I eventually found those that were better to work on and work with. But that was that something just changed. And when I went for that audition and I went and I met this lady, she's a Minister Scott now, but I call her Director Scott. She's from Queens over there in South Side Jamaica, and old school, West Indian woman. And she was like, "You got something." She looked at me
Wow.
and I did the audition. And she was like, "I love, you haven't." I said, "Well, it's always been a part of my life," and it just kind of switched over. And so from then, I just started delving into that part of the other part of my passion, my other love.
That's
But yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
No,
but
that's
that was
amazing.
yeah. I mean, that's just the real story of it, man. Um,
That's
it,
dope.
it, yeah, that's the real story of it.
But it kind of goes back to what you were saying. It goes back to what
Mm,
you're saying about having a circle or people around you that could, when you having those off times,
yeah,
and that's something that we all need because especially in this business, or I should say just in life, there's a lot of ups and downs, and if you don't have either people, supportive people, just in your reach, because
yeah,
look at that situation, you had
yeah,
someone you were cool with just put a little bug in your ear. Then you
yeah.
have another person who was just supportive and say, "Nah, you got that," and just putting
Hmm.
those planting those seeds. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So it's it's crucial again to have to sort out good people.
yes,
People with intent and surround yourself with good people because you know we all got to work together. And it's better for all of us,
yeah.
especially in those times. And
Special.
another thing that you touched on that doesn't always get addressed is, um, you know, being an business is based on creativity. Like a lot of times, being creative, and there's a lot of things that happen in our personal lives
Yeah,
that the public not necessarily sees,
right.
and all they see is, oh, you popping, oh, you not, oh this, oh that, and you're here today, you're going tomorrow, but they don't know all of the things that's going on, and I think people got to be mindful of that.
Yeah,
People got to remember that actors, musicians, entertainers, we're all human, and we
yeah.
go through things, and I just wanted to put that out there because people
That's real.
forget.
No,
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 that's
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 real.
that's that's real shit because you don't. No one talks about that. No one
Yeah.
talks about the personal battles, right?
Yes,
The personal battles, and if you don't have the right support system, there's no way for you to continue in this game.
that's
This
real.
game this game takes so much from you, and when tragedy hits, right? Because you and I have gone through the same thing in the loss of parents.
Hmm.
If you don't have a support system, you unravel.
Yeah.
And that's just keeping it. When this is before pandemic and all that other
Right.
extra
Right.
stuff and inflation the way things are right now, which
Yeah.
is even worse than what it was. When these things were going on or occurring. So it's
Hmm.
like you said, and like what Mike's saying, it's like you have to have that support system, and you know when things get a little crazy, life gets crazy, and then it's kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to continue doing this? And sometimes, like you say, you lose a piece of you. When you lose a parent, you lose a piece. Like there's no way that no one can explain it to you. If all those people out there who've ever lost a parent, when you lose a parent, it's like you're never the same. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to find another sense of normalcy again, and continue to kind of work and kind of honor them at the same time, right? Because they want you to be successful. They wanted to see you in those lights, so you want to continue to do that, but at the same time, you're trying to find that drive for yourself,
right?
And it's tough. And again, if it's like I always appreciate the way that you were able to pivot. So we were there when everything was happening, and it was like, it was like you decided to take the pivot, and you didn't look back. You just pivoted, and you said, okay, we're gonna do this different, and we kept it pushing. And look, like you said, like if you don't keep playing the game, you can't win.
Right. Not look at the success. If you would have just sat by, I mean, let's keep it a buck, man. Like, yeah, you gotta take the time out for a minute. Collect. Take that moment. You need it. Your body needs to get that rest. Clear your mind. Go away for a minute. Get everything together, but do not stop. Do not quit. You know what I'm saying? Or if you do that, it's a huge disservice to yourself and your loved ones and the ones who count on you and the ones that are looking for you for guidance and inspiration. So if you want to leave a legacy, keep pushing.
I just to touch on what, if I may, you said, if you got to take a minute, take some time, that's self-care. That's self-care. And it's something that, especially I feel like, well, just period for all of us, this world right now needs a lot of healing and self-care, but especially for our society, our people, our community, we have to. I think we're becoming more aware of that, and we just need to do more of it, and be more cognizant of when we need it. For example, I know personally, I have a time where I take myself away from social media. I'm doing that now. As a matter of fact, like I haven't done interviews, podcasts like that. You guys are the first one since I've taken a break for the last couple of months. Like, just need to step away, and it's interesting because then eventually, depending on how much you're posting, what you're doing, because a lot of times for me, it's really more so, listen, if I got to promote work, a project I'm working on, every once in a while I may have something that I want to say that might be inspirational or motivational, but taking that time to step away from, because of what can feel like a rat race, right? Or it can feel like you're in this hamster wheel. I gotta post, I gotta do, like, you don't have to. You want to, and you do it with a purpose. But when you start to rely on that, to fill whatever void that is, whatever loss, whatever, then that's when it becomes something else.
Right.
And so I feel when you said take that moment, that's exactly that's something I've been doing as of late, and I just step away, and not be as engaged. Jump in when I feel like it, get back to when you feel like it. And this is how, as an artist, as creatives, I think that the way that we are able to really just proceed and survive and get, and when we need to, get the energy back into that battery, and get re-energized and kind of reset, or like they'll say in the military, recalibrate. Because if I got to take the moment to do that, while I'm, or else you continue on, what happens? You burn out. Right? You burn out. So as a creative, as an artist, whether you're, whether you're acting, producing, writing, dancing, singing, doesn't matter. As a creative artist, you have to take that. We, like you said earlier, we give so much of our energy. That's energy, dog. That's energy and time we put into what we create, right? We take a part of ourselves in everything that we do. You put a beat together, and I notice a person, being trained by y'all, like you're taking a portion of your spirit and your energy, and finding a rhythm and finding a hi-hat, what I'm saying? And finding a kick, a bass, whatever, snare. So it's like, that's something, that means something. That's energy, though. That's an exchange of energy that creating. So when we need to take the break, You know,
So on,
that's the message to the artists out there, for real.
so on that note,
Yeah.
talking about piece of yourself, and
Hmm.
we're gonna go into more of a high note. Um,
Yeah.
like when it's time to get into these roles, like, and how do you train? How do you prepare yourself? Like when you get these, because sometimes you got different things that you're jumping back and forth. Like how do you prepare for the roles? How do you like take us through your
Your
without giving
preparation.
without
The
giving out
preparation.
maybe your secrets, but
Yeah.
just kind of walk us through like that whole process. Like how's that like?
That's what I definitely want to know. The same thing. I was gonna ask the same question. It's like, how do you prepare? How do you prepare for the role? What's the daily operating rhythm? How do you
because
get into it?
yeah, because then I had some studio sessions. Some people want the lights dim, and they do their little, they want the candle set. They want
Yeah.
their Hennessy
Yeah.
right there, and they want those. So like, what's the how do you.
So great question, fellas. Great question, and that question comes up a lot during interviews. So it's actually similar, but not exactly the same. But everybody has a different method. Um, for actors, it depends. The first thing is it's contingent upon what is needed for the role, right? Because every role is different. The way that I had to prep to do to play Coach Naeem on Swagger varied. It was very much different from me having to play, the kingpin street producer on FBI. Two vastly different characters, and I had to put myself in a mindset differently of, okay, what do I need to do for this role, and not just the role, but for the scene. Uh, on a general general note, what I would do is I'm not lighting candles, but I'll sage. I'm very heavy. I'm very much heavy into cleansing my space, cleansing my energy, and I will sage. I will light my incense. I will do that on some Erica Badu tip. I will do that. Um, I will sometimes play some music. Sometimes depending on what the characters, what the role is, what the theme is, what the mood is. Like I'm not gonna play Mobb Deep,
Mhm.
before I gotta go play the love interest next door, right? Or the doting husband, or father. Um, but a lot of the times I'm using music. I am setting the mood so that I can see myself and focus on what energy I have to put towards that character. Um, and just specifically, for example, it's just even with Coach Naeem, which is to date one of the really impactful roles that I've had thus far. I'm playing a father whose son is a part of the basketball team that I'm a coach that I'm the assistant coach on with O'Shea Jackson Jr. And my son is played by Khalil Harris, and I'm playing a father, and I'm playing a Muslim father. At that. Uh, Very important to me that I'm representing a dynamic of black men who are positive and that are there for and that's supportive in their children's lives. And so I'm thinking about the way that the writer not just wrote different scenes, but how they created this character. What am I going to lend to this character? What am I going to do to make this character come alive, to make it believable, to make it palpable? Because I want the audience to have some emotional connect to what I'm bringing to it. So I have to study what that is. And now, although I'm not a father myself yet, I'm a godfather of like 10 kids. you know, that's that's y'all included. And so for me, when I have to what I'll do as an actor, one of the techniques is substitution. If I'm trying to find moments, depending on a scene that I have that I'm maybe giving advice to my son or going through a dad moment. Although I haven't been an actual dad, but I know what it is to be a godfather, and then I've also, of course, had a father who dealt with me in a particular way. And I say, but I've also seen, I've seen Mike with his son, and I've seen Jug with his son, and I've seen my man Jay, and I've seen, I've been able to, as an actor, reabsorb, right? We know a lot of times we are fans of life, and we are people watchers. So I'm always paying attention to the way that people are moving through life, and what happens, we have like what's called this actor's tool bag, and I take that and I put it in my tool bag, so that when that moment comes when I'm doing a scene, or playing a role, and if that makes sense, I go into that tool bag and I take what applies. It's true to me, spit out the bone. I take what applies. Same thing if I'm playing a role where I think I did, FBI. I was playing a rude boy in The Plug. You know what I'm saying? A lot of different roles. I know that I've, from my experience in growing up in New York, coming up in the Bronx, and we've had different walks in life, is what I'll say.
Right.
Let's leave it there.
So we've had different walks in life, and so, but I'm able to apply the things that I've been around, the things that I've experienced, to understand what that means and what that looks like. Right. So, much differently than me playing, I don't know, an alien from outer space, but because there's nothing I can compare that to. However, our job as an actor is to find the link, find the connectivity, even though it's an alien, right? Even though this character is a antagonist and a monster of a being, but I've got to find a way to connect to that character to make it real. There's something within that person that I can connect to make it valid as to why that person's feelings need to be seen in that moment. And that's what we have to do as actors. We have to find that truth.
Wow. That's
he said a whole lot, right? Like it was like, man, like
took us to class.
Listen, that's
like
what we talk.
Listen,
that's what it's all about. It's about enlightening the people, letting them know what it's going to take to get into these kind of situations.
Yeah.
So I got another question for you, right?
Yes.
Like you've been on a lot of projects. I don't want you to really name any names on it, but what would you say was maybe say your best experience, and then what would you say was your worst experience, in any of your projects?
Without having to blow anybody up.
Yeah, I really would prefer that he blew it up, but that's too aggressive these days. You know what I mean? So,
real sensitive world we're living in right now. So
right. So that's the problem that we have right now. You can't really keep it.
But still, I'll keep it 100. I'll still keep it 100. There was a movie that I did that the great experience that I had in a movie that I did, and this is also a note. This actually is a great question because it kind of leads into it kind of circles back to what we were talking about, the process and the ups and downs of the industry, right? In terms of the acting, I auditioned for a role for a movie, and the role I auditioned for, I didn't end up getting. When I auditioned for it, this is the in-person. This is before COVID, way before COVID. We were able to do what's called in-person auditions. I go to either to the studio or to wherever they've set as an audition space, and I'm going before writers, directors, whoever's involved. Sometimes producers, definitely casting directors, and these are the people that will determine. You as an actor, your audition, you go before them. They've given you what's called sides on a portion of the script that you've memorized, that you've bonded with, and then you go and you do your audition for them, your best interpretation of what you believe they want out of that scene. And so did this audition, and I got what's called a callback. Now, as an actor, when you get a callback, that means that the said director, producer, writer, whoever's involved, liked your work. And they want to see you come back, and they want to see you come back. Great thing, right? That's a wonderful, that's great news. You get to understand that as you get that call back, you are one of possibly 5, possibly 10, in a room full of other actors that also got that call back because they saw something in you, but they also saw something in him and him and him, and so now it's the next level, right? It's almost like you're going through your gauntlet and trials and tribulations of now it's competition. It really is the competition.
So it
And
gets real,
so,
right? So it gets real at that moment. Like,
it's real. And so with this particular movie, I went before this casting director. This director rather, who at the time was directing the movie, and he had directed people like Denzel Washington, big movies. Devil in the Blue Dress, Out of Time. Like he's, this guy was, he's a real deal. And I was fortunate to go before him, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And when you get that many callbacks, I'm thinking, man, this is
in the pocket.
what? And as the first time, and this is also me as a first time actor, working my way up. I had not booked anything major yet. I hadn't even really done great film. I had done stage plays, theater project. I had not done film just yet.
Right.
And I just started kind of transitioning into that world, and that's 2 separate worlds right there. When it comes to technique of acting. So I get 3 callbacks. I go back, and then afterwards, I don't hear anything.
Oh.
Come to find out, another person got the role. Didn't know who at the time, but they contacted me and said, "Hey, I was a name role," and they said we'd like for you to come and be the role of Thug Number 1. So let me say this. Again, for those getting into the acting when you're just starting out, it was a step down from what I was auditioning for,
right?
But it's still work, and it's still a gig, and it's still an accomplishment. So although I was disappointed,
right,
I was grateful for the opportunity, and I said yes, of course. I confirmed. I went on set. I was ready to play Thug Number 1. When I was going to stand there with clothes, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was Thug Number 1. I got to see who got the role. It was the name actor/comedian, and I said, okay. What I didn't know is that the producer. I didn't know who the producer was at the time. This producer came up to me, one of the creators of the show. Didn't know at the time of the movie, rather, and he said to me, "Yo, I liked your audition, man. You really did your thing. But, we have to make some choices. We have to make some changes, And I said to him, didn't know who he was, but I was like, you know what? Honestly, I understand. It's it's how the game it's how the game goes. But I'm grateful to even be invited to the table.
Right.
So, so I left it at that. Not even 10 minutes later, came back, and mind you, I'm dressed. I got my I don't went through wardrobe and makeup. Came back to me and said, hey, you're not gonna shoot today. We got something else for you. And I was like, okay. So do I? Like I'm standing there, like I'm getting ready to shoot. And I'm like, do I? They're like, don't worry about it. You get paid for the day because they already booked me. But we got something else for you. Cool. I went back. I left. I'm gonna fast forward maybe about 2 weeks. And again, in that time, all that time, I'm going, what happened? What did I do? What I didn't know, God was shifting some things around. I went from playing Thug Number 1, and they offered me a role that was playing bodyguard to one of the main characters in the show. And I go from shooting for 1 day, working for 1 day, to working 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh,
that was my
wow.
First major film experience, and that was one of the greatest experiences because it showed me, 1, why you keep going, but 2, why you always give your best and you put your best foot forward because you never know who's watching.
Wow.
You never know who's paying. You never know who's watching and paying attention to the work that you do, your work ethic, your attitude. I could have been, I could have been salty, right? I could have been on someone want to say, yeah, but
yeah, you could have had a bad
attitude. Why they had to go choose dude and me, I could have did, that could have been but that's not my energy anyway. But when you show that gratitude, again, when they see your work ethic, I think the directors changed, but it wasn't even about the director at that point because the same director wasn't even on. It was the producers. It was the people behind the scenes. I didn't even know who they were, but they were watching for every audition that I came to, and they watched me on set, and they came to me and gave me the opportunity. I'm forever grateful. One of the best experiences.
That's an amazing story.
That's crazy, bro.
It's crazy, right? You don't know who's watching and who's looking at the way that you handle yourself in terms of your work ethic, in terms of just your vibe, your energy. Like, a lot of the times when we do auditions and people who want to work with us or represent us in any way, it's a matter of, do I even want to work with you? Sometimes it's just something personal. Do I want to work with you? So that leads to my bad experience, I'm not going to say the worst, but it was a bad experience where I worked on a project and it was somebody that I didn't know very well, but he had come up in the ranks as on the scene actor, like hitting major movies and films and making a name for himself. And it was disappointing to see the attitude,
Oh man.
that he had. And you know, it's not. It wasn't one of those things where it was like, oh, is it be reluctant to meet your hero, so kind of type of thing. It was more so I'm saying to myself, man, this guy has made great strides as a as an actor or as somebody in the business, and it's unfortunate when you see there's something off-putting about them. There's something that's like it's a negative energy where they may look down on you because well, like who are you? You
Wow.
know, and that happens, and that's the other thing I want to express to the audience too. Like what I didn't allow to happen to me in that moment in dealing with that person, the individual,
Hmm.
I didn't allow him or anything like that to dictate who I am as a person and dim my light and my shine. You have to know who you are when you approach anything in life, but especially in the world of large, like you have to be confident in yourself. I know that I'm there. I know that I'm worthy of being there, and that's what I had to take with me. And that's what got me. That's what helped me deal with that situation. Because if not, as an actor, we want to, or just as an artist, a person, you want to be able to work with the people that you like and like the people that you work with. You don't want to have this negative vibe and feeling because that's not going to work on set. You're
Yeah.
going to be working day to day, moment to moment.
And you're
And so,
creative, and if you're creative, you have to be able to bounce off each other
yeah,
to be able to and in entertainment overall, man, like your story right there just rings so true because it in order to do and me and Joe talked about this all the time about doing good business,
mm-hmm.
doing good business
Do good
and
business.
how having a good attitude it takes you a long way, man, and people call you back, yes, because of your skill, but also, that guy had a very good attitude. This guy was workable. This guy was, about his business and did everything properly and did everything correct. And I felt comfortable working with this individual, you
Correct. I
know.
felt comfortable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So on that line, like there's something going on. It's been hitting the headlines a little bit with and it's between Monique and DL Hughley and
Mm-hmm.
you know like, what's your take on some of that that's going on, where they're kind of like fighting and fussing, and in the public media, and these are, actors slash comedians,
Legends,
and
man.
these are
Like,
legends, like
yeah.
I'm sure you've seen this, and like, what is your take on that, and bashing your fellow, actors or your coworkers, pretty much.
Mm.
That's that deep side. That's that.
It's what it is. The reason why I took that side, bro, because it's heavy. Because we just said it. These are icons, legends, if you will, right? That we're looking at in real time have these very human moments and human emotions. And the only reason why it's so off-putting and crazy is because of who they are. You and I both know that we've had moments, right, that the
Right,
public will never see,
right, right,
or may
right.
never be privy to, because
right,
we're not out in the limelight like that to that degree. Um, but when you're out there like that and you're having a moment, and whether whoever's justified in saying what, it's number one, it's unfortunate, just
right.
period. I just feel like, and I gotta say it, like especially for us as a people, like I can't say it enough. Like we have to find a way that's part of where a lot of our fight is in terms of just dealing with the industry as a whole. Like the more we keep divided with the bullshit, like it continues to make we're already perceived away, right? We're
Right.
already judged.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
already deemed not easy to work with, and you name it. You went down the list of things. You know what I'm saying? They already
Right.
don't want us. Hell, they don't even want to give us the satisfaction or the creative license to be like, yo, can you see a black woman being a lead in Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Moses Ingram? You know what I'm saying? They already have a problem with us in existing in worlds where we're so. When I say them, I mean I'm talking about the racist, ignorant people. So it's disheartening where we have to take out our grievances in the public the way that we do, and then social media, of course, being what it is, the machine that it is,
Yep.
the platform that it is, doesn't help.
Right.
Because it's become this place where we get to just spew out venom and just
dump on people, man, like
dump
that.
on people. You know
And
what
the
I mean?
algorithm picks it up. And
Of course,
just goes.
it just goes. So you know, but just if I feel like unless someone has, and again, everybody, you know, feelings are not always facts. They're what I was told by a mentor of mine. Feelings aren't facts; they're guideposts, right? But you are entitled to feel, and you're entitled to have your feelings. Now what you do with it, that's a different situation. How you decide to execute dealing with a situation is completely different. You know, I can't judge and say I wouldn't, because I haven't been I've been placed in situations, but differently than the ones that we just, you know, some of the people that we just mentioned. We try our best to hold ourselves to a standard where we like, hey, listen, we ain't trying to air the laundry out like that. Let's talk behind the scenes. If I got to talk, and we'll pull you aside. Right. Let's talk. You know, let's have a chat.
Right.
But we're in this world like, well, if I got to insult you, I'm a, you know, fuck it, here we go. I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and that has consequences. You know,
Absolutely.
because now you're tearing down. Now you're going after people's. It goes from, you know, talking to, it's like we playing the dozens back in the day, right? We did it as kids, like, yo, you're so and so, your mom and your dad, you're so and so, boom, boom, boom. You know, and as kids we could, you know, rattle over. That's me. We kids, we children, right? We back and forth trying to get that dig in. We adults.
And then it hurts.
It hurts. So now you're going for the jugular. Now let me talk about the so and so. Let me mention you. It's like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Like when do you stop?
And I think the larger issue, I think Mike was going to touch on it, is that it creates a large ecosystem of people not really wanting to deal with us.
Right.
And it just create. And like, I know folks will say, hey, we're not a monolithic group. You can't lump us all together. But that's contrary to what society already does, right?
Correct.
You're already lumped in together. So it's not that you can sit here and you can try to differentiate the situations like that. So I think it's like, we know that people are going to have disagreements. We understand that. But yes, for us as public figures, right? Because we are public figures, right?
Yeah.
We can't have that public discourse, right? It messes up the bag, you know, for the next person, and no one really wants to say that. But that's the reality of the situation, is that we still have to work with the structure of corporate interests, right? And if you understand where the money's coming from, right, and money is coming from these corporate structures, right? Whether it be, you know, your larger systemic, you know, corporations that we won't really name those, but we continue to prove them right and saying, hey, these people don't know how to deal with this. These people don't know how to act. They don't know how to conduct themselves as professionals, right? And
it takes one time to do that.
Yep. And you see the opportunities start to shrink, and the opportunities are shrinking. And you say, why are the opportunities shrinking? It's because it's again, like one we don't create enough of our own, and then if we're relying on their system, then we have to work within the confines of their system. And folks don't really realize that, and they continue to just kind of just, you know, air out the dirty laundry, etc. Listen, I hope folks can understand that there's no place for it. You can have your discourse, you know, but what I see happening too often is that we try to go to the court of public opinion and try to get people wiped out, you know, using you know, the cancel culture that's out here.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why people like to go public, is because they can use that part of the cancel culture as kind of like an angry mob to whip you back into place.
Right.
You know, so it's like if we don't agree with you, you know, okay, let's take it public, get enough angry people to have Twitter fingers, and then all of a sudden now, you know, you've become public enemy, and then all of a sudden your bag starts to shrink. You know, and that's just the game that's being played right now, which is like horrible in the situation.
I mean, it's
So
messed up. It's messed up because, like you said, we're being held to a certain standard.
Yeah.
We're already judged, and it doesn't matter how many great things you've done,
Hmm.
how many accomplishments you have. You can't get on that stage and slap that dude. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
Yeah,
because
Mike, I'm gonna go ahead and just say, man, you just,
Yeah, I
I
can't. I
mean,
can't
I'm,
with y'all. Y'all
I
funny
mean,
boy.
look what happens.
Look.
Look at the aftermath.
It's really a hardcore setback.
It's
yeah,
a setback,
You know,
and
it's a
these
hardcore setback.
corporations are like, see,
Yeah,
I knew it all along.
I knew it all along that you was
He
just
was fronting
pretending.
all this time.
Yup, yup.
just a matter of
It
time.
just a little pressure here and there, and
Hmm.
there it is.
I always liken all that stuff to social experiments, right? They do a lot of things. They put you in situations because they want to see what the Negroes are gonna do. It,
Hmm.
it's almost like a game. Like if you guys have watched Squid Games, right? If you watch
Yeah,
that type of shit,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
yeah.
so it's a social experiment. It's to see what these folks are gonna do. We're gonna put them under this kind of duress and see what these folks are gonna do. Is he gonna
Well,
get up and slap this guy? And he gets up and slaps this guy, and it's like and then I won't go into it because the insult to injury is that these folks got their own platforms and they could have addressed it and they never did, and the way that they did address it was just kind of whatever.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
gonna
If
leave
you
that
do it
I'm gonna leave that away.
if you do it publicly, it should be fixed publicly, in my
That's
opinion.
what I would say, man. I
I
would say
agree
those
with that.
guys need to fix that, but those guys need to show that strength, right? Because we're then if you look at it, then look at the attack on Chappelle, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
And what we do is we're inspiring poor behavior,
Right,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
right.
and that's what folks don't understand, that what this social media engine does is if you twerking, you got all these kids twerking. If you doing the set me on fire challenge, they're setting themselves on fire. If you attacking comedians or whatever for not saying what you want to hear, then you create these precedents, and then all of a sudden now we're saying, wow, it's all getting out of control. It's because you inspire that poor behavior, man, and especially in our community, we can't afford to do that.
And I think that's the really the major thing in that's the major through line for me. In our community, we know, we understand, we overstand that we're being held and judged differently. That's just it, and we have to move different because here it is, going back to you know to real, like you should, I wish you wouldn't have did it, right? But now you take that one moment, and this man has been the most, for the most part, been the most positive, outgoing,
Yeah,
outpouring of self love and healing and wanting people to connect. I mean, he was the
the
best example,
epitome.
the
Yeah.
epitome of like, yo, I want people to love, and he has that moment, right? He has a human
A human
moment, and it's
moment.
like, and unfortunately, that played out in the public eye, and I feel he'll come back to me. I feel like but it's gonna take time. But I agree. I feel like that the healing of that should be done publicly, just how the embarrassment of it and the hurt,
Yeah,
you know,
What I
like
did
the way
what I did like is how Denzel and Tyler Perry
Tyler Perry, yeah,
pulled him to the side and gave him some coaching. Like I thought
yeah,
that more of that is needed
a hundred
um,
percent, yeah,
in the field. Whether it's music, whether it's act. Like I just think as far as especially black actors and actresses and just entertainment, but in business in general, like I think more of that nurturing, more of those OGs. Like yo, this is the way to do it. And it just seems like you know we're missing so many.
hmm
I know specifically like in the music business, like recently, so many artists are hitting their demise, and it
hmm
just feels like there's not enough OGs giving out game or
Giving
kind
out
of
the gifts.
putting on the. I mean, and this is one of the reasons why me and Joe decided to do this podcast is always to just give game
Yes,
and be like, yo, don't do that. That ain't necessary in order to do that. You need to rock like this, or you could go this way, because you continue in some of these paths. It's just you just putting yourself in a bad situation, and
detrimental.
um,
Yeah, and I
it's
applaud y'all for that. I applaud y'all for that, and just to touch on that again, because we need more of that.
yeah.
And again, specifically and especially in our community,
Hmm.
we need it for ourselves to show the support and love for ourselves, and to show the world too that we know how to do this. Like regardless of the situation that society or the higher ups may have put us in, like the projects that we had to survive through in our inner cities. Those of us that were able to come out from that, we see examples of that. We see examples of that throughout the industry, throughout the field of the arts, because that's what we get to express and say, yo, we knew where they were. We know how they grew up. We know where they came from. So it's possible we can, rise from that. But we have to do more of that healing, because part of the reason why you see everybody kind of, lashing out the way they are, because people are hurting. People are dealing with stuff that they have not dealt with. And we, as again, I go back to circles back to what we talked about earlier. As artists, our energy is something that we use on a consistent basis. We have to be able to vent, but we also have to be able to heal and know what we're dealing with, because then we start to take it out in ways that we shouldn't, and that damages us, that sets us back, that hurts the bag, that hurts career, everything. That it has that effect. So we have to understand what that is, to take the time away, you know, take a moment, chill, relax, come back, get healing, get therapy. That's probably a whole other session, but but that
Yeah,
applies. We need that.
it's definitely a whole different session, but and it's like what Mike was saying, like what you're saying. It's like, again, like we have to have those outlets for people to be able to tell you and say, hey, do this versus do that. And I
Right,
think part of the problem that we see or we experience is, like, say for example, we made it this far on our own, right?
right,
Now we've succeeded here, right? We've got here. But well, once you get here, this is a totally different playing field now, right? This is
right,
some extra shit. You've never seen this before, right?
right,
This is different, right?
right.
And what happens is somebody has to tap you and say, okay, listen, young blood, you can't do this here, right? Like you was able to do that down there,
Right.
but you can't do this here anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This
Right.
this is gonna cost you. You're gonna lose
Yeah.
it all, right? Like
Right.
you knew enough to get to a certain level. Now, when you get to a different level, it's like now you have to start seeking out the knowledge of people who have experience and can walk you through certain things so that you don't destroy yourself. You have to
Mm-hmm.
realize that this industry is really made for you to destroy yourself. Like,
Cannibalistic. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Yes.
it's made for you to destroy yourself. It eats its own. So it's like if you're a young artist and you're coming up and you don't really understand, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't understand the level of what it will take to deal with certain levels of success, you're gonna lose it, and
You're
and
gonna lose
and
it.
it's gonna you're gonna see it just fall through your hand like sand, and you're not gonna know why, but it began because we didn't seek out the counsel of people who had the experience to say, hey, Mike, how'd you deal with this when you got here? So
Yes.
how did you deal with this when you got here?
Yeah.
And just being able to have that kind of resource, and I think this is what this whole podcast is really trying to do,
Yeah.
is, hey, we have to create these resources so that when you get to certain levels, you can get some answers.
You can.
Because
Right.
if you don't have the answers, you're not gonna know how to navigate. And then when you make those mistakes, some of those mistakes you can make up time from. Some of those mistakes you can't make
You
up.
can't.
Like, you know what I mean? You can't get that time back. So that's what people have to realize, is that when you got people who are like, if I salute like $1 million worth of game, drink champs, I salute all of them, because it's kind of
Yes.
like you have to show folks what other people went through so that they can know how to navigate this thing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's nothing but potholes out here, and those potholes are filled with black holes that people fall into, and
Yes.
they go to another dimension, and that's it. And so it's like it's
Everybody's not built to, like, deal with a lot of those You know, a lot of
Shit's
those
real.
situations, like I think about again. I go back to us coming the way we came up. We have to figure things out. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of the times. I mean, I guess we would be the OGs of
No Google,
no Google. You know what I'm saying?
no iPhone,
No
No,
Siri.
none of that.
no Siri, no Alexa.
You
Like
feel me?
like you had
Yeah,
to go to the
we,
library, bro. Like
yo, we had to figure it out. We had to literally make the mistakes that thank God that didn't take us out, but we had to have the wherewithal to be able to learn from it and know not to move that way again, or learn how to, as you said earlier, just pivot. You know, like I didn't learn to pivot by myself. I learned I took on what I, of course, grateful for my parents, but the people that I was, again, who are you surrounded by? Look at you, who are your peers? No, who are the peers that you're surrounded by that's able to not just go through the fire with you and not just be like, okay, they got your back and support you, be able to tell you, yo, fucking up. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Oh, yo, don't do that. You know, if they care about you, really, you rocking with me. You're not going to see me walk to my demise. And vice versa. And so I think that's also crucial. Why it's crucial why we have what you all are doing with the podcast. And truly, I've done it personally. I've done a podcast here in the actors world, and I know that's something that may come down the line. But at the end of the day, also done it on a personal level. I've had actors that are coming up and they'll reach out to me and say, "Yo, do you have a second?" Sometimes I can get to them, sometimes I can't. But when I have been able to, because on a weekly, when I was on social, like I'll get hit up DM messages and like, "Hey, aside from do I get an agent, stuff like that?" Because that stuff is kind of like that's a service. It's more so like I'm feeling like this. I had an actor that had to talk him out of quitting.
Mm.
He wanted to quit, and I get it. He was just in a place where it was just like, man, I haven't booked nothing. I've been auditioning. And I've worked with him. I worked with him in class. I was in classes with him, and I said, yo, don't get talented. But it's just, how the game goes. Just part of what I was able to give him was my own testimony in terms of what I was able to push through. Right. Same way you're able to say, listen, guys, don't do this deal, don't sign that, don't just we have again we are if we are the OGs of this of this generation,
Right.
and dealing with the creatives and the artists. I think it doesn't hurt or take away from us to be able to help the next person and say, hey, listen, especially if they're asking, if we're able to give that advice, because
Mm.
it's hard out here. And
Yeah.
when we get to the next levels, you have to be able to know how to navigate that, because you will make those detrimental mistakes. And that's why we need these platforms, because they need to hear the people like us that have yes, we made we have the accomplishments and we have the accolades, and we can pat ourselves in the back, and because we didn't get here by chance, we had to push through, and we had to have our tribe and our circle of people, and that's why it's so important. With all of the techniques and all of the experiences, with all the passion, but you have to have those things in line. Have to have those things in line.
That's true.
Um, to push forward. Yeah.
man, you said a whole lot, man. That's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast right there.
Let me say this before we start wrapping up.
Hmm.
More on a lighter note, like where does Sean Baker go from here? Like what, like who are some of the actors or actresses that you would love to work with? Like put that in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
Mike, that's right.
like,
Talk it out.
who you like? Yo, I want to work with that person, and also where do you see yourself going? What's next? Any like additional projects or whatever?
So I will. I'll say this. Um, Whenever I get asked that question, they'll say, "Well, what's next? What you got lined up? What's the next move?" The next move is to keep moving,
Okay.
and the next move is whatever God has planned.
Okay.
Um, because there's that saying: if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. You know,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah. Got to
I
move in
found that
silence too. Yeah.
yeah, I found that to be very. That doesn't mean that you don't plan something, or you
Right.
don't, but I've learned to be open and receptive to the all good of things that are happening in this world, in this universe. I put it out there. But yes, I put affirmations of what I want to see happen, and what I want to see come to fruition. But I'm open, because just like the example that I gave you earlier, I thought it was going to go one way, right? I
Mm-hmm.
prepared for it to go one way, and God has something different, and that actually turned out to be a better and a bigger blessing than I thought it was. So I'm open and receptive to all good. The artists that I would love to work with, man, the list, it almost changes every changes every day of the week, because when I am able to catch some of the bodies of works that's out here, it's unbelievable. Like, there's so many talented people, actors and actresses out here. Like, it is. I want to work with. I want to work with, whoever is going to cultivate my creative spirit and have me level up.
You giving the nice, humble answer.
I am.
I want to be like, yo, I want to work with Denzel.
But that's the thing. I am going to work with Denzel.
Exactly.
I work with Samuel L. Jackson.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I didn't even ask for that. I guess that's part of what that wasn't even a plan. That was, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
What do I want to see? Absolutely. I can name off the Daniel Boyegas. You know what I'm saying? I could name off the Viola Davisons. I can name them. But here's the thing: these people, that if I look at what's happening in my world, even in moments of stagnation, it's already within reach. I'm already working with the people that I work with. I'm already doing it. So it's literally a matter of time. It's not to say that I don't want to speak it, but I want it to be when it's supposed to be, and I want it to be. And it's like, I know that I'm there already. I know what's already happening because I'm already in alignment. Because when I look at my circle, when I look at, if you look back, I'll say, man, I've done, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, man, I've worked with some top people, or I've been before some great people. So what's already happening? So I just want to keep moving forward, and look at whatever that is, because the list is long. Like I said, it changes, and it's almost too long
It's a long list. It's a long list.
It's a long list, but I promise you this. Anybody that I want to work with, the name that I can name, they won't be bigger than me at the end of the day. It won't be bigger than me.
Got you.
My name is going to be up there. I want to work with the best version of me.
Got you.
And I know that may sound a little crazy.
Listen.
That's dope.
But you don't have to explain, man.
You feel me? Like,
if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I've been taking moments and times to, and I'll say, like how K-Dot said, to protect my peace in the valley of silence. And when I was able to be still enough, I was able to see and hear the things that I wasn't able to see and hear before. And I know that I'll work with the greats, but that's because I'm great. And I'm one of the greats. So that's where I'm headed, to greatness.
That's the brother right there, Sean Anthony Baker. That's the brother right there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You check him out on that Apple TV Swagger, right?
Yes, Apple TV Plus Swagger.
Apple TV Plus. My bad.
Streaming all episodes, all 10 episodes.
Yes, go binge watch that.
Please.
This is the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We're here every week. You can follow Sean Anthony Baker at Sean Baker Online, right? That's the Twitter, the IG.
Twitter's B Sean Baker, IG is Sean Baker Online, and the rest is Google me.
No doubt. Yo, but before we go, hate to leave on a downer. Though, but just shout out to the entire duct tape. A big RIP to our guy Trouble. He lost his life recently, and we just wanted to send our love, our condolences,
love and respect to that,
to our whole team, to him and his family. We worked with Trouble like over the years, early, and
early, like Mike said, when no one, he just came home. He had just come home from prison. Nobody knew what was going on, and we had always seen him in that basement studio, right?
Super talented. It's just unfortunate that again that our talented brothers, is being cut down, before they could even, really, really reach their prime. But so we just want to send our loves and condolences. I didn't want to make this opportunity pass us. I just want to give a shout out on behalf of the whole Arkatech Beatz team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Salute, Scoop, man.
Yeah.
R.I.P. man. That's what we got for this week, folks. Come back, check us out. We do the podcast once a week. You see the new episodes. And like I said, it's Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, and we out of here.
Peace.
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 Arkatech Beatz.